welcome Phoenix Forte listeners. We are so excited to do just a special Christmas episode for you today. It's
Yay.
just a special one because we know that we could use some help getting through the holidays. And so we want to bring to you 5 ways to get through the holidays. Just a quick little list of things that we have found helpful for us.
Yes, absolutely. So excited for this Christmas season and excited to get into this list of things that have been so helpful. I think we kind of wanted to start with taming triggers, right?
Yes, thing number 1, learn how to tame your
Yes.
triggers or be aware when they're coming.
Yes, for sure. I wanted to share just like a brief little story actually of some experience I've had with this. So I had actually just left my like where I was living at the time and had just moved to a new place and then had gone home then for the holidays and went to my sister and brother-in-law's where I've always gone for the last 10 years of my life to watch my niece and nephew open presents. We're all playing a card game. My brother-in-law got upset with me, raised his voice at me and said I was too sensitive.
Mm.
And so that definitely triggered me. It was on Christmas Day. I just left my marriage. I am like, and so I like immediately got up from the table. I definitely had a panic attack, but I started doing my box breathing, and we can talk a little bit about that, what that is in just a second. So I did that. And then I also, even though it was Christmas Day, I knew that reaching out to somebody is what I needed to do. And so I did. I reached out actually from somebody in a therapy group that I was with, and we kind of talked through the whole situation, what was triggering me, why it was triggering me, and just kind of getting curious, walking our way through it. And the box breathing is just breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold that for 4 seconds. Like it's just very simple breathing to just kind of get my body to calm back down. So that was really my experience around that. I don't know if you've had anything, Ashley, but it really helped me. And it also taught me that I'm allowed to have boundaries and that I actually did not go back there that next year and I went somewhere else. And so we're going to try it again this year. But it really taught me that I actually can, I don't know, make Christmas to be a safe and somewhat joyful place if I needed it to be. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I love this example. I think because we want holidays to be so full of peace and joy and family togetherness that sometimes when we experience a trigger in the middle of the holidays, we almost get this like guilt line that plays in our head of why am I not doing better? I should be okay right now. I should be able to prioritize my family and connecting with them. The fact that the thing he said to you was that you were too sensitive, I think is interesting because I think quite often that's one that I hear just to myself, or I'll have clients here tell themselves that they shouldn't be acting this way. They're too sensitive, and the
Yes.
holiday would be better if they just didn't have that sensitivity. And so I love how you handled that. That the first thing you did was stop and return to some tools that you had to have learned beforehand, right? You didn't make it up on the spot.
Oh no,
Those
yes.
tools of the box breathing, that one's my
Yes.
favorite. Reaching out to someone and just letting them know what's going on and getting curious about that are such great ways to handle your triggers with without that judgment, just with curiosity.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I even remember too, like actually after the incident had occurred, was able to calm down and get back downstairs. I didn't go back to the card game, obviously, but I did sit down with my dad, and my dad was just a bit curious as like, what's happening right now, And I was able to just kind of sit there and talk to him, and I say that to say that I found the safest person I knew how.
Yes.
Also, who was there that I could talk to. So yeah, and from that experience, I really learned that like I could have Christmas in a hotel room by myself and I could actually really enjoy it without having to subject myself to anything like that, that
Yeah.
it just showed me again what my worth and value is. And yeah, so
That's so empowering to know what your worth and your value is, and that it's okay if your Christmas doesn't look like the magical Hallmark movie Christmases where
yeah, like it
family is
always
all together and we're
has.
all just so supportive. I also love how you identified the safest person that you could find. Sometimes we can find them easily, sometimes it's harder to find them. And so, like a phone call or Marco Polo are really
Yes,
important to utilize to reach out to that safest person you can find.
yes. Yep. So yeah, if any of our listeners are at a gathering or you're going to be at a gathering where there are a lot of people, maybe even something to think about is just maybe even trying to identify now who are your safe people, who are the people that if something comes up for you that you weren't expecting, that they are somebody that you can go to. So yeah,
Definitely.
triggers
All
can be a
right.
big thing in the
I kind of
holidays.
want to do the counting of the box breathing just real quick because when I was first learning about
Okay.
breathing, the thing that I would always do was count way too long. And so when I was actually trained on breathing, it changed everything. So just to give a pace of what it looks like, is that okay? Can we pause for a second and just do some
Yes,
box breathing?
absolutely.
All right.
I love
You want
this.
to count it or do you want
Yes,
me to
can we
count it?
do this? You can count it.
Okay, I'll count it. All right. Here we go. Everyone do this with us, whether you're listening or watching.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right. We're going to go In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. I always do it a minimum of 3 times and then end with just one big breath and let it go. Yes. So good. Such a great way to help tame triggers.
Yes, and for those who are not watching us and are just listening, something that I actually learned in the medical community is when you're breathe in through your nose, breathe out with your lips puckered, is what they say, like you're blowing on a birthday candle or a cupcake. And then to get real deep breaths, you can even use your belly to breathe instead of your chest.
Yeah,
So.
that diaphragm muscle down there. When we use our belly to breathe, that big diaphragm muscle, it activates a whole bunch of neurons that are kept in our gut. It activates our vagus nerves. So many incredible things happen with that. We just
Yes.
have a whole episode about breathing, but we're not going to. We're going to move on to number 2, which is giving space for grace. Our
Yes.
second tool to handle holidays and get through is giving that space for grace. What comes to your mind when you think of this one?
What comes to my mind is, like, even as we're going through this podcast and going through this list of things, is that I am the type of person that I'll start putting pressure on myself, like all the things I should have done or need to do, and I get into the habit of the shoulds and all those different things. So I think the big one for me is just like the space for grace, that like take what helps, leave what doesn't, and purely know that that is how it is, like that is how it's supposed to go. Leave what does not serve you and take what does, for sure. So I think that space for grace, that's what comes up for me.
I love that because I'm definitely one of those, like, here's my list. Let me check all of the things off. And so if I'm listening to a podcast and it gives me a list of things and I'm not able to check them, that just opens me wide up for all sorts of intrusive thoughts to come in and tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong. So I love that perspective of space for grace. When I think of it, I think of allowing myself to not be perfect, to not be, my Christmas tree doesn't have to be perfect. My presents don't have to be perfectly wrapped. I don't have to have perfect presents. I don't have to show up where I'm uncomfortable, that it's okay for me to say no and not do it perfectly.
Yes, for sure. And yeah, it's like, for some of our listeners, I'm sure, and even for myself, even that Christmas that I spoke on earlier, like I was just surviving. I was literally trying to just breathe my way through each minute.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter what your holiday looks like, there is so much space for grace. And something that what I called a sister in arms, my sister in arms was such a huge, huge light for me going through this. And she was just huge about that I've had 100% success rate on getting through difficult days. So the holidays, we will not sit here and tell you that they're going to be a breeze. You're going to have a blast. It's going to be so much fun. We will not lie to you. However, I think that I can speak for me and Ashley that this season it will pass. And however you're getting through it, you're doing a great job. You really are. 100% success rate. Keep going.
That survival mode. And oh no, the way that you described it, where you were having to just remind yourself to breathe through every minute. I really like that because breathing should be so natural, right? We don't have to think about it. We've been doing it since we were born without having to think about it. But something happens when we get hit with just any trigger, but holiday triggers, I think, tend to add a little bit more, where sometimes even just breathing is hard to remember. Getting through it, not even day by day, not hour by hour, but just minute by minute. I'm going to survive this minute by minute. And so giving yourself doable goals, even if it's just, okay, I'm going to get through the next 10 seconds and then I'll go outside, or I'm going to get through the next 5 seconds on this real smaller scale. President Uchtdorf tells us when we're going through hard times, we need to slow down. When there's turbulence, we slow down. And that includes holidays and when things aren't matching up. And if we're experiencing triggers or discomfort, slowing it down. Make my goal just, okay, I'm going to remember to breathe for the next 10 seconds and get myself through that.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
We're number 3.
3. Yes.
You want to tell us about it?
Definitely. It's reclaim. It's reclaiming your holiday. So I'm going to actually go back to that story that I was sharing and how it taught me that I didn't actually have to continue in that. And going to my sister and brother-in-law's house, it had just been a difficult time for me several times. And it was just a place that I did not feel welcomed or wanted. More of just like, well, I'm just there because I'm family, so they have to let me come there kind of a thing. And so it was like, I really started learning like, okay, but is that really what I want for Christmas? I don't personally, I don't want that. I just didn't want that. I'm like, actually, I think I'd like to be with people who actually want me there, who actually are overjoyed to have me there and actually want to celebrate Christmas with me. And if there is no person, okay, then I'm going to spend it in a hotel and I'm going to do something really nice for myself and I'm going to spend it by myself. And I ended up the next year, to kind of reclaim my Christmas, I decided that I wanted to have as least triggering of a Christmas as possible. So I started figuring out, okay, where can I go and what can I do that would be least triggering for me? And so I started there. Then I went to food. Like, what is something I would eat? I don't care about what the traditional Christmas meal is. What do I want to eat? I ended up eating cereal for Christmas, and it was amazing.
Which
I woke
cereal
up
did you
Christmas.
choose?
I think I had Lucky Charms and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I think were the two
Yes,
that
good
I
choices.
had.
Well done. Well
Okay.
done.
Yes. Okay. And so I ate cereal. I woke up in the morning and had hot chocolate. I had presents for my dog. And like I just had this little like Christmas for myself and I actually did share it with one other person, but it was just a place where I felt safe and there wasn't a whole lot of stimulation. And I just had a very peaceful, like quiet Christmas. And it was amazing. It really was. And I had this
Yes.
guilt that, well, my niece and nephew, they really want me there at Christmas, and I am disappointing them or I'm letting them down. And what I had to accept and what I learned was that actually, no, I am, as their Auntie Patty, showing them what it looks like to care for yourself, to have boundaries for yourself, to know your worth and value, and to make the holiday what it needs to be for you and for your sanity. And so I'm like, well, what better thing would I want to teach them? I would want to teach them that. And their Auntie Patty had come to their house for the last 10 years. So I just kind of said to myself, well, I'm just going to put that in God's hands and hope that they're going to understand one day why I did not come to Christmas to see them open presents. And
Yeah.
that's really what gave me peace. So I just, yeah, it changed everything for me. And now that I'm going to go back there, I feel so much more confident that if anything even feels off for me, I'm just going to go. Like I already have an exit plan and everything where I'm just going to leave. And I am okay to do that. I have a friend who lives
Yes.
15 minutes away. Her and her family would love for me to go. So I'm just going to say, y'all have a great Christmas. I love you so much. I'm going to
Yes.
go. Yeah.
I love in this story the things that are sticking out to me. You've got an awareness of what your needs were, what you were comfortable with, and what you were not comfortable with, and how you wanted to handle that. And then permission to handle it in a way that was important for you, that valued you, that reminded you that you are of worth, and it's okay for you to do something that brings you peace. And then the last one, having that predetermined boundary for this upcoming year. Like, okay, I'm walking back into this space. I got to see how it's going to feel, but I've already got predetermined boundaries. I've already got my expectations. If I need an exit plan and what that's going to look like, so that you can walk in there and not have the fear. When we are
Yeah.
prepared, we shall not fear, right? And so you've done all this
Yeah.
preparation work, and it's just so beautiful to see you reclaiming this holiday.
Thank you. Actually, that means a lot coming from you. And yeah, it just, and I will say too, I feel like I should just add that my brother-in-law over the last year, I have seen he has provided me evidence and my observations of him and his behavior and who he is as a person now, not 2 years ago. And so that I think also provides me with some safety to know to go there, that like he has presented with me that he is putting an effort and trying to provide safety and to help me to feel welcome in his home. And so because of that is why I am willing to try this.
Yes. So
Yeah, because
important.
this
Yeah.
person has provided me safety. So okay, I can then try that again. If he had not been doing that, I would not. I would have
Okay.
to choose otherwise. Yeah, I just have to make a different choice. But yeah,
Amazing. What a
glad
great
to go.
example of boundaries you are. Well done.
Well, Forte listeners, Ashley taught me that.
When I think of reclaiming, I go right back to when I was going through my own recovery. I was in my own support group, and my therapist was talking to me. This one is specifically related to my bad month. We all have that month, right? My bad month is February, and it was in January when I started experiencing anxiety about February. Christmas had ended, January had started, and immediately my body went, oh, we're only a month away from February. So I was talking to my therapist about this, and she is the one that taught me the idea of reclaiming, that I can look at February and let it have all of the control and the power, or I can start purposefully and intentionally planning things to look forward to and to celebrate in February. And I'll say that first month when I did that, we had like a beach party in February, but the beach was just a blanket that I put on my floor, and we listened to the Beach Boys, and we had a bubble machine, and we played in a
Yes.
hot tub, and we just pretended that we were outside on the beach, right? Absolutely ridiculous. I had my kids and our best friends were there to just give me something to celebrate and to plan for. We got so crazy. The hot tub was one of those garden tubs that was just in my bathroom that has the jets. When the
Yeah.
kids got so crazy
Yeah.
playing around in their bathing suits that I had to use blankets to sop up all of the water on the floor because the water just got everywhere. It wasn't towels, it was blankets sopping up the water. But as I was sopping up the water, was I thinking about how much I hate February? No, I was remembering all of this laughter that had just filled my home. I was remembering the peace that came with, like, here we go, celebrating this thing. But there were moments of grieving in there too. And so, as we talk about reclaiming, finding specific things for you to look forward to plan for, to celebrate, put in there just for you, whether it's I'm taking this holiday in a hotel and I'm doing the things that I love doing, or whether it's just I'm giving myself permission to stand up and exit the room if it gets uncomfortable or triggering, however that reclaiming is looking for you. If slash when there is that grief that hits, part of reclaiming is feeling that grief without the judgment, right? So I had this beautiful day reclaiming February, and it was wonderful and it was really helpful. And then at the end, I got quiet and I got hit with the grief. And that's also not bad. It's okay to just feel that emotion and allow it to be sad, to just work through that sadness by sitting in it and being with it. As we do that, then that kind of grief doesn't have the power over us anymore. And so then rather than the next year, all we can think about is the grieving because we've worked through the grief and we've allowed it to have a space. What comes back then is the memories of all of the other things too. And so we slowly begin to reclaim. So, tool number
Yes.
3, reclaim. Plan those
Yes.
things that are important to you, put them in there, and reclaim by not running away from that grief when it hits too.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was trying to think like if there was like a really simple example of reclaiming that then could be applied. So a really simple way, a simple example I can give of reclaiming is the reclaiming of a shirt. Okay, so there's a shirt I have in my closet that I love so much. I actually wore it in my engagement pictures. But I love that shirt and it is so comfortable and it's one of my most favorite things to wear. I love it. And so I didn't want to get rid of it. And so I'm like, how do I keep this shirt without it bringing me so much sadness every time I put it on? So I wanted to reclaim my shirt. So what I did is I have worn that shirt now doing so like a massive variety of things. I have worn that specific shirt so that I could develop so many more memories in that shirt to reclaim it as a shirt that I've gone to amusement park in, a shirt that I've gone out with my girlfriends in, a shirt that I blah blah. It's a long distant memory that I wore that shirt in an engagement picture, and it's way
Yeah.
more. And so that rewiring of that reclaiming, that sadness still can come to me, and I may have that remembrance that I wore it in my engagement shoot or whatever as that comes, but I just accept that, I feel that, sit with that, take that on as information and move forward, it's like,
Yeah.
and getting to continue to keep that shirt and have so many now more joyous memories in it. It's like, yes, I'm so glad I got to reclaim that one because I'm so
Yes.
rid of it.
I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Okay.
Just to add to that, when you were talking about this shirt and how sometimes there are those memories of like, this is what I wore in my engagement. The visualization or the little sentence that came to my mind was, but that wasn't the end of the sentence. It's like a comma, and I wore it here, and I wore it here, and so it just becomes one of the list of things.
Yes.
And and when you reclaim it enough, pretty soon that hard one is no longer even on the first page of the results of the memories that
Right.
you've reclaiming, right? It's still
Right.
there, and sometimes you'll come across it, but it becomes so much more. And then this is just a whole other episode for us, but I wonder about reclaiming ourselves in that same way, where we give
Yes.
ourselves all of these other experiences. So we're not defined by this one thing that we went through. We went
Yes.
through that and we did this and we do this and we do this. And that one little piece, although it is part of the story and it is part of what was there, it just becomes less of the focus. And we can reclaim ourselves and the peace that we have with ourselves as we just
Yes.
give ourselves more experiences.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Reclaim is it's a good one. That's just,
Reclaim.
I feel like reclaim takes away the power that whatever the experiences or the things are that seem to have over us, I feel like reclaiming it takes that power away, and they don't
Yeah.
know have that. And so I just, yeah, that's a big one. I love
Yeah.
it.
Love it too. Awesome. All right. Number 4. When we say this word, you're going to think that you know everything that we're going to say. So don't tune out. Okay. Don't tune out. We have new information to add. Tool number 4 is self care. Ooh, don't leave.
Self-care.
Stay with us. Self care.
Yes, stay
Patty,
with
tell
us.
us what you're thinking about with self care.
Okay, I will. So with self-care, I feel like sometimes it gets like skipped over, but self-care for me anyways, I have been guilty of this even on that. Oh yeah, well I took a shower today, so yeah, I definitely I care for myself. And it's like, no, 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 wait. It's for me anyways, and speaking from personal experience, it's gotta be intentional, like intentional, prioritized self-care. Something that I am making an intentional commitment to keep to myself that I will do that self-care thing for myself. So not going retroactively, but saying like, today I'm going to choose to take a shower for my self-care today. Or today I'm going to choose to make sure I get one really good meal in today for my self-care. Or I'm going to read this chapter in the Bible, or I'm going to, whatever it may be. But that having it be really intentional. And then when that is accomplished, it's like, wow, it's like a different experience than it is to just, you know, go color a page for 5 minutes or something without it being like an intentional thought process of that's what you're doing for your self-care. Yeah.
Yes. I really like that intentional attribute that we're adding onto it because sometimes I'm definitely guilty of retroactively being like, "Oh no, I did do self-care. See, I did these things. I My best friend is a traveling nail technician, so I'll have her come do my nails sometimes. And sometimes I'll do it retroactively and be like, "No, no, no. I did do self-care. Remember? I've got the pedicure happening right now." But that kind of retroactive thinking isn't actually as helpful as intentionally prioritizing. Today I'm going to do this thing. This month I'm going to do these things. On Christmas, this is what I will do in order to take care of myself. When I think of self-care, I think of first the way that I would care for my children. So if my kids are hungry, I feed them. If they're dirty, I wash them. If they're getting kind of antsy, I get them outside. If they're kind of ornery, I turn off the screens. If I my awareness of how their behaviors and how their emotions can communicate to me what they need, and then I tap in and help get them what they need. I take care of them. That we can kind of flip around on ourselves. Self-care is literally just taking care of myself as if I were my own parent. I don't have an adult who's doing that for me anymore. I've got to do it for myself. So when I'm hungry, I need to feed myself. When I'm dirty, I need to clean myself. And when we're doing those, even just basic mundane tasks, but with the understanding of this is me taking care of myself because I am important and I deserve to be taken care of, then even mundane tasks become empowering. They become something that remind us of our true value.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I could not possibly agree more. And so I think like even for me, I'll commit to you and our listeners, as well as most importantly to myself, that for my intentional self-care on Christmas, there's two things I know I'm already doing that. My one piece of intentional self-care is eating amazing food. My mom is specifically they're making like prime rib and stuff, and I'm picky. I don't eat any of that, but I love hash brown casserole. It's better than Cracker Barrels. I'm telling you, I would bet money on it. I love it. So I'm going to be eating that. My mom has already assured me it's already in the fridge. We're taking it. We're going. I'm like, okay, great. And so I'm definitely going to do that. And then I'm really am taking it very seriously that I will be keeping my boundaries. So at any moment I do not feel safe, I will be doing something about that. And that
I
is
love that.
intentional of caring for myself. So
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'm
My
going to do.
self-care that I've done,
Yeah.
my kids are with their dad this holiday season, which I'm glad they have the opportunity to go and connect with
Mhm.
him and spend time with him, but that doesn't mean it's not hard, right? And I'm surrounded by lots of friends and they all said, "Oh, you're invited. Come caroling with us. Come to our Christmas Eve dinner. Come do these things with us." And as I was listening to it, I just knew that me going to be with a whole bunch of other people and their families was actually going to be harder on me. It was going to remind me of the kids that aren't currently with me. So
Mhm.
I took off and I went I went home to my parents so that they can take care of me, right? Because prioritizing intentionally that I don't actually need to have the pain that's unnecessary. I don't have to fulfill the social obligations of showing up to the things that I've been invited to. I can appreciate where they're coming from. I finally just said, actually, that's almost harder. I really appreciate you inviting me. That's so great. I think I need to do something else because that'll be harder. And just let them know where I'm at. And so I came to visit my parents and I'm hanging out with them. And that's going to be able to provide me more opportunities for peace personally. That's one thing that I can do rather than go out and put myself in with other families. So that was one way that I intentionally prioritized taking care of myself and then what I was needing.
I love that you mentioned too that like you didn't have to fulfill all the obligations and like keep up with all the social appearances and like be and even cause yourself unnecessary pain,
Yeah.
like being around that, and even the fact that you took the time to figure out that like and to self-reflect that like it would be harder for you to be around all of that.
Yeah.
And so you had to go to where it's like a quieter place and be with your family and all that kind of stuff, So I think it's just so important that you are worth the time that you took to spend thinking about that. You're
Yeah.
definitely worth going to wherever it is that you need to go to have a happy, or not even happy, but just a survived holiday. Really,
Yeah.
that's really what we're trying to get through. We're
Yeah.
trying to survive the holidays. Okay. So if you need to get somewhere where you can just survive it, like that, it's just you're worth that. You're definitely worth it.
Worth that.
That last year of Christmas, I think I took a 9-hour drive. I drove 9 hours straight to where I was going. First time I had ever done that by myself, but it was worth it. Definitely
Yeah.
worth it. So,
Definitely worth it.
yeah. Yes.
All right. Tool number
Okay.
5.
Yes. Find a song that like helps you, that fills you, that maybe even just brings you Christmas spirit, or even any spirit of any kind that is healing for you or helpful for you, or anything like that. Yeah. And we have a very special song that we're going to talk
Yeah.
about today that Ashley and I actually, several people told us about this specific song, and then we brought it up to each other and we were like, oh, maybe this is like a God thing. We should probably talk about that song. So we're gonna do that. Ashley, you
Yes.
want to tell us what it is?
Yes, this song is incredible. It's called "Oh Come All You Unfaithful." And I've heard it in I've had 3 different people talk to me about this song. So it seems to be the big thing this year, and
Yeah.
I see why. It's just
Yes.
beautiful. We talk a lot about the lyrics on this podcast because that's what we can, but I want to just do a little stop and talk about just how peaceful the melody is. That this is a song that I could turn on and just have the melody playing in the background, not even actively thinking about the lyrics, and it would still brought peace to my soul. It's just
Right.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like you can feel the spirit within the sound
Yeah,
of, yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's so pretty. It
I love
speaks to
that.
your soul. Words
Yes.
aren't even necessary, but the words are still they're
They're
so beautiful.
so
So we're
good.
going to
They're
talk
super
about that.
powerful. Yes.
but, but just the song itself really hits you.
Yeah, the song and the lyrics together is like a force to be reckoned with. So,
Yes, for
yes,
sure.
very, very good. Is there any lyrics that you wanted to point out, like right up from the top or anything?
I really like I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna read the
Yep.
first 4 stanzas because they're just so pretty. Maybe even 5. It says, "Oh, come, all you unfaithful, come weak and unstable. No, you are not alone." From the beginning, knowing you are not alone, that's hitting me in the feels, right? That's the first thing. Come, barren and waiting ones, weary of praying ones. Come see what your God has done. And then the next stanza, come bitter and broken with fears unspoken, and come guilty and hiding. There's no need to run. Just this idea that the reason we have a savior, the reason he is on this earth, is because we aren't perfect. It's because we're going to need him. It's because we are broken. It's because we're doing all of these things. We don't have to live up to this standard of perfection in order to qualify to have a savior to come to us. The reason he's here is because we are going through all of these hard things and we are struggling. And that's why we come to him.
Yes. Yes. I really like the one who that stuck out the most to me was the no, you are not alone. And like for me, like that's just for all the women that I do know who do have kids, and even like yourself, who with kids, you have to share them on holidays and all that kind of thing. And I just cannot imagine like that kind of grief and pain. And so like when I hear this song, it's like the very first thing I thought of, I think when I first heard it, was all my mamas that are going through betrayal, trauma, divorce, all of it. And I wanted to read what it says at the end, what the bridge is. And it says, he's the lamb who was given, slain for our pardon. His promise is peace. for those who believe. And it's like, we're not alone. He's always there with us. And he has experienced all of our aches and pains. He knows what it feels like. And what a beautiful gift that we have in the Savior, that we can depend on those things, and we can go to him. And I just love that it talks about, there's no need to run. We don't have to go. There's fears unspoken, bitter and broken. It's like all these different things, and the very last verse says, though you have nothing, he is the offering. And it's like, wow. Wow. It's such a simple, simple song, but the words are they just hit you like
Yeah.
nothing else. Mhm.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
That line that you just mentioned, so come though you have nothing. That's the
Yeah.
one that's hitting me as I'm reading it right now. I'm thinking about a group that I ran last night. It's a support group for divorced women who are divorced due to betrayal trauma. And it was just such a heavy group. And it was heavy because this is a hard time of year, right? And having to find those things that are going to work out, striving to find peace even as your children are spending time with in a different house, striving to find these things. And it just feels like sometimes you're left with nothing. And in this group we talked about Mary, the mother of God,
Yeah.
and how she was described, I'm going to tear up, how she was described as favored among the Lord, that he was one of the Lord's favored women. And yet she's a highly favored woman, and she's literally carrying the Son of God. And yet there was no place for her to give birth. There
Yeah.
wasn't a bed that she could lay on. She was highly favored and literally carrying the Son of God. And she almost lost her fiance as a consequence of this choice that was happening. She was highly favored and carrying the Son of God. And they had to flee in the middle of the night to find safety because the king suddenly decided. And I think sometimes when we're experiencing really hard moments, especially among the holidays, and especially when we're trying to think about Christ and our Savior, that it can
Mhm.
be really easy to go, yeah, but what about me? Like maybe I've been forgotten because it feels like I have nothing. And
Yeah.
remembering that just because it's really, really hard right now doesn't mean you are not favored of God. That
Yes.
his highly favored individuals go through really hard things. And so
They
come
flee
though
for
you have
safety.
nothing to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. They're fleeing for safety. She literally gave birth, like,
Yeah.
like literally, like the
In a
poorest.
barn. Like,
Yes, like literally in like the poorest, like weakest of circumstances, and
yeah.
and she was carrying Jesus, okay?
Yeah.
Like
Like
Jesus,
if there's
like
anyone that
the
deserves to
most
have
like
things
the
work out,
right. It's
he's
like
the one.
exactly, and you'd think it'd be a bit different of an entrance, but it was
Yeah.
not. And so it's like just I think for me too is that like when I'm going through such a hard thing, but it's like even Mary, who was carrying Jesus, look at the and hard and what she was enduring at that time. And that doesn't mean that God's not with me, that he doesn't love me, that he's punishing me in some way or anything like that at all. And sometimes for me too, I think that, and this is just for me personally, especially with where I'm at now, it's like, okay, what can I get from this? Like what from this really hard time? Okay, Mary was highly favored. She gave birth to Jesus. That's what she, such a what am I doing? What am I doing? What can I do here? What can I do in this time? What can I use this time for? What can I take out of this? Like, what can I get out of this? Like, is there something here? Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer to both of those is the last stanza of the song. Christ is born. Christ is born for you, right? That Mary, literally, Christ was born for her. Raising the Son of God couldn't have been easy. Like that, whether or not that was like a peaceful thing, I don't know. But Christ was born to
Yeah.
lift her up and to save her and to be okay. And for us, the same thing,
Yeah.
even as we're going through this hard time, even as
Yes.
holidays aren't as peaceful and joyful as we believe maybe they should be. What's coming out of it, what's on the other end of this, is that peace that comes from the one who brings all to us, even though we have
Yes.
nothing to give, even though we're feeling a little bitter and broken or have fears, that he's right there. Christ is born. Christ is born for you.
Yeah. And I know that you and I both just have a really strong testimony of that, that like, at least I know for me, I've put that to the test and
Yeah.
he's there every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And his promise is peace. That line is
Yes.
so powerful. It's coming. Hold on.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh, I love this. I feel like so filled even
Right.
even to know what to do with. So I feel so grateful for that. And I'm just, yeah, I'm really grateful to have my savior. And that's another thing too, had I spent a Christmas alone in a hotel room, I'd be spending it with Jesus. And that's all that I care about for Christmas anyways.
Yeah.
Truly that's what the season is about. And this song I feel like really does bring that in together to see,
Yeah,
what this is really about and who the gift of Christmas really is. So
definitely.
yeah, yeah, I love it. Love it, love it.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Best of luck in your holiday season. You've got this. You've got your 5 tools. So even if you get this and you're only just surviving your way through it, we believe in you. We see you. We've been there. And we look
Yes,
forward to talking with you again soon.
yes. Remember, you are not crazy and you are not alone, and we will catch you next episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.